What's going on, everybody? It is that time of the week. It is time for Change Makers. This is a great show that you guys can share. You don't have to worry about anybody getting offended on their page. This isn't about politics. This is about how to create change in the world. And specifically on this episode, how to create change in your life. As you guys start to come in, Nikki, I see you in the chat box. Go ahead and hit the like button, hit the share button, hit everything you can. Let's get that algorithm going and let's get some people watching live either on Facebook or on YouTube. Again, this is Change Makers. We've got a very special guest, one of the hottest up and coming podcast hosts. Craig Siegel is going to be on. So go ahead and share this episode out there. Hit the like button. I want to see those hearts. Go ahead and tell me where you're coming from. I already see some comments coming in the box. So we've got a mindset coach that utterly and completely changed his life and is starting to change other people's lives along the way. And this episode is going to 100% get you in the mindset to create positive change in your life. So share it out there, and we're going to get started with episode number 23, Michael Jordan's number right here on Change Makers. What's going on, everybody? It's Anthony Michael Russo from BetheChange. I see a bunch of comments in the box. I see you coming in here. Brad, I see you. What's going on, brother? What a duo. I'm excited for this show. And if I wasn't excited, I would have been excited once we bring on our guest, because he is pure energy. He is a rock star, and he is going to get us jacked up today. So to introduce this show, if you don't know what Change Makers is a show where we talk about how to create change. And we bring on guests that have created change. We've had Daryl Davis on this show, a gentleman that got people out of the KKK by showing them kindness. We've had Maggie Thorne from American Ninja Warrior. We have had Bob Berg, one of my favorite authors of all time. Change Makers is about people that can change mindsets, change the world they're in, and change themselves internally to be a better version of themselves. I see all those shared in the box. I like what we did on Truth Will Set You Free last night. If you haven't shared it yet, we're going to count down from 3, and everybody hit that share button. You don't have to worry about anybody being offended by politics. This is all about positivity and sharing positivity. So on the count of 3, we're all going to share this post. So 3, 2, 1. Share it out there. Excellent. Thank you, guys. There's a lot of comments coming in. I love it. So Craig's going to be coming out in just a second. I do want to remind you guys, if you want to listen to any of our podcasts, especially last night's Truth Will Set You Free, which was phenomenal, or any of our other shows, including Make America Think Again, all you got to do is look us up on #BetheChange.com/podcast. All of these are translated in the next 48 hours, and you will see that there. If you want to support what we've got going on, as always, I'll go ahead and throw this on the bottom. We love your guys' support. As I always like to say, I don't really care about the Venmos and Cash Apps. That's all great. What I love is Patreons, because we do a little bit extra. We do motivational Mondays, and we do specific calls in order to on Zoom to chat with you guys and see what's going on. So please join our Patreon. It supports what we do, and is, of course, supporting Cashley Kelly, as you guys all know. With that said, the time has come, ladies and gentlemen. I get to introduce our guest. Super jacked up, super excited. We've got Craig Siegel. He is a mindset coach, speaker, entrepreneur, performance enhancer, breakthrough manufacturer, and the host of the record-breaking podcast, the CLS Experience. He's been featured in Entrepreneur, MSN, and Yahoo Finance. I want you guys to know that he really just got started with this in the last calendar year, since 2020 hit, since it struck. So he left his previous career on Wall Street and he went all in, and he's created Cultivate Lasting Symphony, which is the CLS Experience. The rest of it, I'm going to go ahead and let him explain himself. But right now, if you're at home and you're not standing up, I guarantee you Craig will probably tell you to stand up at one point during the show. Let's get the party started. Ladies and gentlemen, Craig Siegel.
Woo! That's quite the intro, my man. Usually I take great pride in the intros. That was fantastic. I appreciate it all. So happy to be here.
I am excited to have you, Craig. So we've met through kind of random different things between Lauren And then between Brad Taleppo and all the different groups, and we've been putting each other's paths. And ever since I met you, I just was like, I don't get what it is about Craig, except for the fact he's got phenomenal energy, but you have this it factor to create change. Before we get into creating change and all of it, talk about your changes in the last year, who you are and how you got to where you are right now.
Well, I really appreciate you saying that in regards to it factor. It's a very special compliment. I'm going to go ahead and receive that. In regards to the changes that I've made on myself, you know, I've been obsessed with personal development for about 10 years now, since I graduated college and I went to Wall Street and had a ton of success, built multiple businesses up. But the truth of the matter is although I built up all this knowledge and I cultivated all this wisdom on NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, for the audience who might not be familiar, and revamping the mindset and sharpening the axes, I never thought I was going to make it my life. I just loved it, and I would apply it in different endeavors, such as business, such as running marathons, relationships, and so forth. But when the pandemic happened, it gave me something I never thought I would have, being a business owner in Manhattan, a window, a minute where the world stopped, where I can reassess. The truth of the matter is although I'm very grateful that I have my own business and it was lucrative, for lack of better words, did nothing for me. Wasn't setting my soul on fire, wasn't exactly changing the world. And so I knew I was unhappy and unfulfilled for quite some time. In regards to not loving what I was doing, I also had a bunch of other stuff going on. For example, my father had gotten diagnosed with cancer. I had gotten out of a 5-year relationship. So it was a little bit of a dark place. And listen, when you wake up every single day and you're going to a job, and I'm going to use that word for that, like, it doesn't help, right? And so the pandemic happened. I knew I had at least 2 weeks because I shut down my office. The world didn't know what was going on at the time. I knew I had 2 weeks. I put myself in this frequency. I said, I have a window right now. How can we dig deep and see if there's something else out there that we can maybe create and take a shot with? So put myself in that frequency. The writing was on the wall, not to sound too spiritual, but I felt that tap on the shoulder. It was like, of course, Craig, you've always been obsessed with personal development, mindset stuff. And on top of that, and I say this very humbly, I've always had a gift to be able to communicate and inspire people to want to actually take positive action. So I said to myself, wait a minute, not only is personal development my passion, maybe it's my purpose. Very next day on a run, I thought of Cultivate Lasting Symphony, pulled over in Central Park on a bench, bought the domain, started putting out content, sold out back-to-back programs to the mastermind, CLS podcast launch, 70,000 downloads in 2 months. The rest is history. I finally found what I was born to do and never felt more alive, as you could probably tell. And that's one of the reasons why you and I connected. I'm very grateful for that.
100%. And it's funny, you talked about finding what your passion was essentially while you were running. And I think I told you this when I was in my mid-20s and I was going through that typical quarter life crisis. Like, what are you going to do at this point in your life? I wanted to write a book then. I realized that all my major life decisions were being made while running. Like, there's a different clarity of thought. Like, there's this, and it's the endorphins of running. And I know that you said that, you know, you've been training for marathons. I think you've ran a couple, haven't you, so far?
Four. In 1 year.
And I was wrong when I told you 8. I've only ran 7. I can't figure out where the 8th one was. I've like literally been racking my mind. But there is this clarity of thought. And at one point, the reason why running, I think, especially in this day and age of cell phones, is you kind of have to finally disconnect. You have to disconnect from everything except your breathing, maybe the sound of the music in your ear, and it allows you to focus on what matters. And so I think it's awesome. And that's something I would do too. It's just like, oh, no, I got to pull over for a second. This is what it is. And you bought the website, and that's awesome. So first off, I have to ask the question, do you have any regrets of leaving that lucrative 9-to-5, whatever, 8-to-6 career at all? Do you have any regrets?
No. In fact, I don't even regret saying that I wish I started CLS sooner, because I believe everything happens the way it's supposed to be. And I needed to go through everything I did to shape me so that CLS would be so effective. And here's the thing. When I started CLS, yes, I do have a business mindset, but CLS was more about helping people and revamping mindsets worldwide. And as I'm sure you can attest to, when you do something with heart and you do it really well, the money will come. And so we generated 6 figures in the first few months of CLS, generating money out of thin air. so to speak. And I say that very humbly because money wasn't priority number one. And again, I want to reinforce, when you're in alignment and you're doing what really sets your soul on fire, you'll monetize it. Trust me.
And you talked about the job thing, and some people hear that and go, "Oh man, another like entrepreneur, like he just wants everybody to just start their own thing and start their own business." And I've never been a fan of working for somebody. I've always worked for myself, whether it's independent contractor, all the different things over the years. That's my personality. That doesn't mean that you can't love your job, and it doesn't have to feel like a job. So it's not just the idea of starting your own business. And I don't know how many people that you've been working with on the masterminds. Do you have people that just want to find a new, I guess, spirit in terms of their daily life, either with their family and their jobs, and just find the fact that they maybe truly just love what they do?
100%. My clients and my students and everyone that I work with from all walks of life. And just to reiterate what you just said, let me be very clear. Like, I know people who have a boss and they love what they do. So it's not work to them because they're doing what they love to do, even though they're an employee, so to speak. That's perfectly fine. I just want to be very transparent. I wasn't happy at my job and it felt like a chore and I wasn't waking up on fire every day. And essentially I was dying a slow death because if you're not happy, you're not fulfilled. What's the point? Like, and again, not to sound too deep, but we get one shot at this thing, like religion aside, there's no sequel. Every second that goes by is a second less that we have here on earth. And so the pandemic kind of opened my eyes to like, look, this is very unpredictable territory. I want to take a shot and I want to pursue something that really fuels my fire and take that swing. And if God forbid I took a shot and I struck out, that's totally fine. The one thing I could not live with is just keeping my bat on the shoulder and not even taking that swing. So for all of you that do have a job and you love it, kudos to you. I think that's absolutely fantastic. Me personally, I wasn't happy.
So with the mastermind groups, so you initially, I believe, started with one-on-one coaching, correct?
Correct.
And then you had the idea, because and that's part of any work that you're doing or any passion that you have, is how to take what you're realizing you love and grow it. What gave you the motivation, passion to grow what started out as one-on-one coaching?
Yeah, so initially I put together a 3-year vision, and I saw this being CLS being bigger than Tony Robbins, revamping mindsets like literally everywhere in the world. And I wanted to be, and this is going to sound a little goofy now that I'm saying it out loud, but I'm just telling you through my process. I wanted to be the Apple of personal development, like sleek, expensive, and very respected. And I said to myself, how is this going to be the biggest thing in the world? Like, let's reverse engineer this thing and work backwards. And I got all the way back to step one. I put out a video to tell the world who I was, what I was going to be doing. I was going to continue to put out content, create that Hollywood hype. I'm a big movie guy. I always appreciated when a big, exciting movie put out a trailer so far in advance because it teased you and it got you interested. So I took that approach, started putting out content. It was time to launch. I launched a one-on-one coaching program, and I said I was only going to take 5 clients. And that sold out in 2 seconds. And again, I say this very humbly, I launched the second one. There was a time period in the beginning of CLS where I had, and I do not recommend this, 25 one-on-one clients. And the truth of the matter is I was so grateful that everybody was resonating with the message and they wanted to work with me. And I wanted to help people. And when you start any business, whether it's online, coaching, anything in the world, you're very grateful, right? When you open up the doors that there's people lined up. And so I didn't want to say no. But eventually, after 25 clients in one shot, my energy was being a little drained because that's 25 different personalities. So I said to myself, how do we continue to scale this thing from the coaching aspect? Forget about some of the other lanes in the highway. So naturally, it said, let's create a mastermind where I could still have Craig, but I could have 25 people in one shot, in one call once a week, so to speak. And so I did a mastermind, sold that out, and it was a much better use of my time and energy. And now the second one starts next week. And the bottom line is I still have some one-on-ones, and I always will because I truly love it. But as I'm sure you can acknowledge, you got to be very deliberate with your energy. It's the most important thing. Yeah.
And the one-on-ones are great, great as a coach too in small numbers because you're learning different techniques on how to deal with all different personality types. So the exhaustion of 25 is one thing, but having a couple to make sure you essentially every human being has a different backstory and every human being has a different trigger that makes them tick. And that's the importance of making sure you stay close to that work. You said something though about putting things out there. It's kind of the Jim Carrey school of manifestation. And you went and you made a video. I was actually just listening when I was working out the other day to a motivational tape. I can't remember who it actually was. Oh yeah, it was the founder of Spartan. And they were talking about the Spartan Paradox. And I've talked about this forever. When people ask me, what do you suggest on how to run a marathon? What's your first tips? And I do not say train. I do not say buy shoes. I do not say what I say, pick the marathon and pay for it. Put your mindset in. You went all in by creating a video saying, this is what I'm going to do in the world. And you held yourself to it by putting it out there. And then the whole world, would look at you in a year and say, you didn't do anything. I thought you had these big plans. So I think it's huge to put that out there. What kind of importance, and I know that you probably talk to your clients this way too, and your assistants too as well, I'm sure. What's the importance of actually making a commitment to change?
Yeah. So I love that you brought this up, and two things come to mind. But before I get into that, you're talking about the Spartan races, right?
I believe so. It was. I didn't see the video, but I'm assuming because you're talking about training. Yeah.
His name is Joe.
Okay.
I love that guy. I read that book, Spartan Up, and it was a game changer for me years ago. And it kind of got me into some of the cardio stuff. But to answer your question, accountability is monstrous. And I learned a lot when I decided to sign up for my first marathon in 2019. I had no business running. I just ran. I was always lifted weights. That was my thing. But I wanted to run a marathon for a couple of reasons. Number one, I have addictive personality. And I was so fascinated with how mental running was. Because am I really tired, or is it my perception of what I think makes me tired? And I was able to control that voice in the head. I was able to run further and further. And so I did something I don't normally do. I'm more of an introvert, believe it or not, and I never had a social media presence. I put out everywhere, every platform that I did have, that I was running the New York City Marathon. Everyone who knew me was like, you running? I didn't even know you started. I was like, I really just did start. But I did that because I knew once that was locked in, and agreed with what you said, paid for it, but even a step further, told the world I was doing it. There was no backing out. I had about 6 months to train for that thing the world was watching, dominated that thing. I took that very same approach because I learned from it and I did well with it to when I started CLS. So I put out a video. I did not hesitate. It was one take. And I basically sat there in a cute little purple button down. And I said, my name is Craig Siegel. Started a couple businesses from the ground up, 8 figures. I went from not being able to run a mile to run 4 marathons that very year. I've been through a whole lot. I studied NLP for 10 years. I know tools and techniques that help revamp your mindset, modeling, anchoring, and so forth. It's life lasting as opposed to an inspirational video. And people kind of dug it. And the truth of the matter is I stayed consistent. I continued to put out content. And I let the world see what I was doing. For me personally, I'm not going to let myself down, and I sure as hell ain't going to let the world down when they all see what I did. So to answer your question, come full circle, in a nutshell, accountability is huge, and you can play tricks. You can put stuff out there to generate access accountability, just like I did and you did.
So the great part about live stuff, and I get to see the comments off to the side, is I've got some questions that we'll continue to talk about, but I think this is important. Shirley has a comment on the side that she's been watching since the very beginning, and she said, Jeanette Nolan Dickerson, she was replying to somebody else. Let's hope Craig can help me motivate me to the next step. I'm wavering in life right now. I've resigned the school year, but I have to finish my contract, and it resigned at the end of the school year, but it's painful. So in her life, I know a little bit about what she's going through, getting to that point where she knows she's going to change things at the end of a year, but she's got to make it to the end of that year. What kind of random advice can you give to somebody that needs to gut it out while they know that they're about to make a big change in their life? And I love Shirley. She's no spring chicken. So I know that this is a big step. It's always a big step. Once you hit 30 or 40 and then 50 and you start looking back at life, you're like, oh shit. Like, I don't know how many more changes I can make. So Shirley's got some serious stones, and I love Shirley for it. But what kind of advice do you think you can give based on that thought?
Yeah, I just want to say, Shirley, thank you for being so vulnerable, letting your guard down, and sharing your story a little bit. Just to be clear, is she a teacher?
She's been in the teaching world for a long, long time. Yeah.
All right, so she's gutting it out until the summer, and then she's looking for a new path. Is that right?
Correct.
Number one thing I could suggest right here, right now, after you listen to Be the Change, of course, grab a pen, grab a journal, and start putting your thoughts down and do a little bit of a brain dump. Start figuring out what you are passionate about, what does fuel your fire, things that interest you. And you'll be surprised how effective this will be. Once we start generating some interesting things that you know you're gravitated towards, we can begin to put together a plan, a moonshot, so to speak, and kind of strategize on how we can go that route and then also monetize it. And here's the good news. Since you're still doing what you're doing right now, you have time on the side to build this. So when it's fully time to step down and to kind of leave that in the past, you're already going to have all these ideas percolating. There won't be that big of a window. You can just hit the ground running. Grab a pen, grab a journal, make the journal your best friend.
I love exactly what you said. I was hoping you were going to say it. People look at it as they're gutting through this year, when in all reality, you essentially have you've got a side job. Your main job just became your side job. You got to get it done. You're going to get paid for it. And at the same time, you get to get paid to come up with this new idea. Unless you're working 180 hours a week, you're not. You have enough time to actually figure out exactly what you want to do. And it starts with a pen and paper, and it starts with figuring out exactly what you want. Like and I wanted to bring this up, so it's a perfect segue. When you talked about your 3-year vision, and I think this is important for anyone, because it doesn't just have to be with work. It can be with family. It can be with anything. So your 3-year vision, and you looked at what you're doing. Why is that important to people to really look at ahead and actually get that on pen and paper or get it on the computer?
How can you hit a target that you can't see? You can't. So I like to visualize exactly what this thing's going to look like. For example, I just signed up for my 5th marathon. It's been a minute because I have some unfinished business on the marathon circuit. It is October 10th, 2021 in Chicago. Mark my words right here, right now. I will break 3 hours and 30 minutes or I will die trying. The bottom line is this. I actually picture myself crossing that finish line under 3:30, literally going like this with my hands in the air, my family around to give me a big hug. I could smell it. I could see it. I could see the city of Chicago. That image is very comfortable for me because I've seen it in my mind. So when it's time to actually go do it, it's not going to be that strange for me to attack that. In regards to the CLS, I had to see myself selling out stadiums of 100,000 plus. I had to see my podcast, even the first week, I had to see it do 10,000 downloads the first week. Everyone that I work with thought I was out of my mind. Maybe so, but I think all the greats are. We hit that. You have to be able to visualize. There's a lot of power in visualization. And on the flip side, it can really hamstring you or keep you in shackles. If you don't have a vision, it's very hard to strategize. Even like, for example, someone that's trying to lose some weight or get into better shape. See what that might look like. Like, what kind of clothes would you be wearing? Like, how thin would you be? How shredded would you be? Muscular, whatever the case may be. And then you can kind of aim towards that. And it keeps you motivated. It keeps you inspired because there's literally like a light at the end of the tunnel. If you don't have that, it's very hard to hit a target that you can't see.
It's perfect. So there's another comment that we don't need to go too much into it, but she's a rock star. She's actually been a guest on our show as well. She's had her toes amputated. She goes by the Toeless Runner. She wrote a book, and it's all about running and how in her mind she had just gotten into running, and then bam, she had sepsis and septic shock, and she went through it. And she's been talking to me about wanting to, or we did talk about getting to that marathon point, the half marathon to then the marathon. So there is something big between that 13.1 and 26.2. So she's planning on running Chicago in 2022. So here's the deal.
Hell yeah.
You're going to sign up for it, Maria. And what's going to happen is you're holding yourself to the 4:15, and Craig's going to prove that once you put it out into the universe, it can happen. He's going to run the 3:30 this year, and then you're going to get the 4:15 next year.
And that's just that, because we just decided it. And that's just that.
The only restrictions we have as human beings are technically in our mind. Gravity is the biggest restriction. And even then we find a way to overcome the hardest of things. We have planes that fly through the air that we thought were probably impossible over 100 years ago.
That's
so
right.
There is no boundaries. I want to also ask you, actually, while we still have obviously a lot of people on, I want to make sure we talk about what you've got going on in the different places to find you. First Talk website, if you want to find Craig, it's cultivatelastingsymphony.com. So cultivatelastingsymphony.com. If you want killer Instagram daily stuff, this is it right here, right, Craig? Go ahead and say that one for me.
At Craig Siegel _CLS.
And then that's on the gram. And then, of course, how do they find your podcast?
Anywhere it's physically possible to listen to a podcast, type in the CLS Experience. Just dropped a brand new episode today with the comic Heather McDonald from Chelsea Lately. It's a phenomenal episode. We're breaking records with it. Most importantly, we tell unbelievable stories of the mindset and the tangible tools that you can apply, that the most successful people have applied when they were at rock bottom. How did they push through adversity? How did they overcome the challenges? So every single episode that you listen to, you might laugh, you might cry, but you will absolutely be able to take value from and apply it immediately.
So Craig's had some like top notch guests on that show, and he got 10,000 downloads. Actually, how many downloads did you get on your first episode? Your goal was 10,000. What did you end up at?
So I wanted 10,000 the first week, and we dropped a couple just, that's how you do the algorithms for the first week. And then every week after was one, but we hit about 11,000 the first week.
That's unreal. So you also, the other thing that's cool about it is you legit were in the world of self-help, just starting out, and you managed to get really big name guests once they started seeing what you're doing. And part of that is you have that it factor. So, and I've talked to you about that before. I remember when I talked about the beginning of the show, I remember when I met you and you were doing your first, you did the first time I saw you speak, and just people followed you. And it was this like moss on a flame. That's not just who you are, that's who you project to the world. And it's something that starts inside. Is there a way that if you could cultivate yourself into other people and motivate other people to have that je ne sais quoi, because you even said you're an introvert, but how do you find that within, and how did you make that change within?
First of all, again, I want to say I really appreciate you saying that. It means a lot to me, and the way you articulated it, I love. In addition, in regards to cultivating confidence on command, it's one of the biggest things that I teach to all my clients, because I'm a big believer in that confidence is everything in life. Whether you're starting a relationship, you're starting a business, you're running a marathon, what you're negotiating a phone bill, whatever the case may be. If you're at 10 out of 10 on confidence, you're on fire. You can't be stopped. If you're at a 5 out of 10 in confidence, you're probably going to get man or woman handled. That's just that. So confidence on command is absolutely huge for life. How do you elevate your state and your confidence? I have tools such as modeling, anchoring, and I've been quoted a lot as talking about modeling. Like, you'll grab attributes from some of your role models or some of the greats in the world, whether it be a fictional character like James Bond, an athlete like Tom Brady, an actor like Leonardo DiCaprio, whoever the case may be, right? It could be your dad, whoever. You grab attributes from them that makes them successful, and you apply them to yourself, and it takes the thinking part out of it. And I'll take it a step deeper. You can actually take the quality of your thoughts. For example, when I first got to Wall Street out of college, I was inexperienced and I lacked confidence. I modeled James Bond. I said to myself, what would be the quality of this guy's thoughts right now? He would walk into that office with swagger. He would not take rejection personally. He would be on absolute fire. His voice like this, his tonality. He would speak very slow. He would captivate the audiences. And literally, my results were staggering. They skyrocketed in a second. Here's the best part. You can have fun with this. You can model different people, different parts of your life. Start a journal. Start writing down people you can model. And just to be clear, I'm still Craig when I go to sleep. Anthony's still Anthony. We're not taking their identity. We're just absorbing some of the traits that make the greats great. If we don't use that, if we don't use the world as our playground, the joke's on us. Other tools such as anchoring exhilarating states from the past, such as me crossing the finish line of my last marathon in Philly with a PR. I anchor that. I bring it to the present. All of a sudden, my state went from a 7 to a 9. Whatever activity I'm about to step into, I'm going to be on that much more fire. Bottom line, there's tools and there's techniques to elevate your state on command, which elevates your confidence and your energy, as I'm sure you guys can attest to. When you're at a 10 out of 10 with energy and confidence, it's not what can I do, it's what can I do.
Exactly. Just want to make comment, Maria, I got you. If you're signed up in 2022, I got you. I will be in Chicago. I actually set a date for the Vegas marathon. So I was born in Vegas. My girlfriend and I met in Vegas like 10 years ago, didn't talk again for like 9 years. So we're going to do the Vegas marathon together in 2020.
That's great.
2022, beginning of 2022, February.
When is it? When is it?
It's February. I think it's mid-February of next year.
A little less than a year. Nice.
A little less than a year. Yeah. I know that I can get ready in that amount of time because I've just been a runner forever. I got to get her tuned up, ready to go, ready to motivate with me.
You will.
If you're interested, it's a killer run. It's the only major nighttime marathon in the United States. So it starts at sunset.
I've actually heard that.
It's gonna be badass.
That's pretty cool.
we were talking about, actually, I wanted to bring up something you say in your bio. And I think that this is super important because 2020 has been rough on everybody. And there's even the people that have flourished have had to go through some trials and tribulations, and some people have been broken down. So you say that you believe that people are not broken, but their frames often are, and you alter the map. So what exactly does that mean, and how does that translate to the people that you work with?
Okay, so for example, if anyone's ever seen the movie The Matrix, most of the people in that movie are plugged in, and then the main character, Keanu Reeves, is unplugged, and he sees everything from a different perspective. I believe life is a lot like that as well. I believe that no one's actually broken. Sometimes their mindset might be dead broke, not them actually, or they might be seeing things with limitations as opposed to possibilities, but that's their frame, because we don't actually look at the world as the world. We have a map that represents our world. And when we alter the map, we change our universe or our world. I'll give you an example. First marathon I ran, I wanted to break 4 hours. That was tough for me because that's what my map saw. Once I eventually broke 4 on my third try, right? 2 months later, I hit 339. Trust me, I didn't get that much more fit in 2 months, but my map changed. It was like 4. That was like a limitation. We could do a lot better than that. So it's the same thing with anything else. People's perspectives are corrupted or can be corrupted. When you revamp their mindset, you can change what people associate pain and pleasure to. For example, someone that's eating a lot of snacks at night, subconsciously, they're associating that with a pleasure. That's why they're doing it. We could change that. We could change the signals that go to your brain. You might look at that as pain now going forward. You'll want to avoid that. For example, for me, I use this when I started CLS. Putting out a video telling the world what I was doing was uncomfortable for me. I made myself feel very comfortable doing it. I acted as if it was a gladiator in his arena who feels very comfortable. Started putting out content. Next thing you know, it felt very natural to me. So again, just to come full circle, I believe that everyone looks at the world through their map. And the best news is change doesn't take as long as people think. We could change the way we look at things and our whole world opens up and the seas begin to part.
So not so many people get to the point where they open up their first major class and sell it out overnight and sell it out within 24, 48 hours, whatever it might be. So you did, and you've gotten to work with people, whether it's one-on-one or in the group. And when I ask you, what are you doing to create change? Your basic answer to me was you're allowing them to tap into your own power. And you just kind of talked about it with changing, anchoring, changing the frames, altering their map. What kind of, without getting too much into the personal lives of the people you've worked with, what kind of changes have you seen in people that you've worked with and the change and the ripple effect you've been able to have on them?
I've seen it all, my friend. I mean, because everyone always asks me, like, what is your ideal avatar client? I have people that are from all walks of life, like I said earlier. For example, I have an amazing, beautiful 70-year-old woman who's now utilizing modeling and negotiating bills for contractors on her house that she never thought possible. She has a new confidence level that she never had in her entire life. She has that spark back, that zest for life. I have other clients who, similar to me, are now putting out content and becoming coaches and generating a ton of revenue doing so. And, you know, they were scared to ask their boss for a raise 2 months prior because now all of a sudden they look at things with a tremendous amount of confidence, so to speak. I have people that are opening themselves up for relationships where they got to have a nasty divorce and it was just weighing on them. They couldn't break free. They were at shackles on. Now their perspective is they let go of the shackles. They're flying. They're opening themselves up to the universe. They're their best self. It's literally anyone that wants to manufacture any type of breakthrough in any walk of life, anything that you're doing, we can create, we can be that change.
Very fit. I see what you did there, Craig. Well done. Well done. What do you got coming up? I know you're working on CLS Experience. Obviously, the podcast keeps getting bigger. What is your next year plan?
So we have a lot of surprises. I'll name a few. On the website right now, we have a couple evergreen products, which is essentially you can go through the course and get on absolute fire. You could check out right there. We have other courses where you can grab a course and grab a strategy session with me in addition to the one-on-ones. My next mastermind begins next Tuesday. We're sold out, but obviously message me. We could have conversations in regards to a waiting list in the future ones. I also have something that I'm going to publicly announce for the very first time right here, right now on BetheChange, because it's going to be live tomorrow in a feature anyway. We got greenlit for a show, which is going to be on a new streaming network. We're about to wrap up season 1. It's going to hit 150 million homes, which is super cool. So look out for that in, I would say, around May. Also, every Saturday, I have an Instagram show called The Paradigm Shift with my good buddy Dave Meltzer, which is a ton of fun. So many surprises to come. We're just getting warmed up. Stay tuned. And obviously, the CLS Experience podcast. Every week, we have a new episode.
David Meltzer is awesome. I knew who he was, never followed him until I saw him on your show. And I started following him. He's very active on social media as well, and he always has great content. So follow Craig, obviously, and follow Craig Meltzer. I want to go back to a comment made in the very beginning because I think it's important, and I think for positive people. And to be clear, I'm a positive person. I know Craig's a positive person. It doesn't mean that we're 24 hours a day thinking that everything is perfect. We know how to turn it on, and we also know that it's important in order to get to the next step in our daily activities to just jack ourselves up a little bit, get going. But it's there in reality, we're still human. There's some things that suck in life, and we get over them with positivity. With that, there was a comment made in the very beginning. I want to get this off my chest. I've been discouraged and upset by all the hateful comments all day long about basically everything. I'm sure she's been on social media, and everybody knows what's going on in the world weekly, and specifically this week. And she then asked the question, do people really hate each other that much? So when you're feeling, you personally, let's not even talk about necessarily your client, the clients and people you work with. When you're feeling down and you are feeling that the world is crumbling around, and in whatever 2020, COVID, social unrest, etc., what's your thought process on how to change your mindset?
I'm at a place in my life right now where I've never felt more alive, never been more aligned. And I have this mentality. I'm not going to give my very precious energy to anything that doesn't serve me. And if that means dissecting like past relationships because speaking to some people bring down my state, and so be it. And I know that sounds a little harsh, but here's the thing. It's like my energy is so important to me. I want to be around people that are positive, that are loving, that want to do great things, like Anthony, who's just on fire and keep reaching higher, and always a positive cat. And I just look, you can't throw stones at every dog that barks or you'll never move forward. If you want to get like enraged at every news announcement, then turn off the news. Like if people on social media with political views bother you, then unfollow them. Like I know it's not rocket, it's very simple, but make a decision. If you're getting distracted by all these hateful things, whatever the case may be, then minimize your exposure to them. It's very simple. Like right now, I'll be straight up with you. I'm in a CLS bubble. I'm going 100 miles an hour. I'm building an empire, and my family, I love them so much. I speak to them all the time, and I see them, especially my nephew, the little guy. I love them, and my parents, my brother Mark. So their priority number one, CLS priority number one. That's all I care about right now. Like anything else, like if it doesn't serve me, I'm sorry, but I have tunnel vision right now. And so the bottom line is, to come full circle, if there's things, people, or energies that are negging you out, minimize your exposure to them. Look, I know it's not the sexiest answer, but I don't know how else to say it. Just get rid of the stuff that brings you down or doesn't serve you. And on top of that, surround yourself with people like Anthony who are bringing out positivity, talking about making change and so forth. And watch how free and light you start to feel.
Yeah, and you said it just right. You have to cut it out, and that isn't sexy. And most people will say, I mean, I could have. It's a drug. It's an addiction. It's like I could cut it out if I wanted to, but I kind of wanted to. No, it's much. You actually have to address it like an addiction in today's world. And there is like I've invested my life into right now talking about positivity, talking about change, and yes, talking about politics and media and all that stuff. And it is a drain, but it also fires me up. So I look around and I see how other people handle it. And I'm like, oh man, if that affected me, and my mom's even had to disconnect because she can't quite handle it the way that I can. And I don't understand how most people do. So whether it's completely cut it out or minimize it, find the shows that intrigue you, find the media that intrigues you, but doesn't bring you down. And if there's social media pages that are driving you absolutely nuts, it's time to unfollow, even if you're interested. It's time. If it causes you pain, drop it. It's that time, plain and simple. If for mental clarity, mental health, you have to do that. So,
and also I'll add this to that. I agree 100% with what you said. If you have the discipline to not give any emotion to the things that you see, and God bless you, keep doing it. Like if you can go on and say to yourself, I'm going to make a decision no matter what I see, whose opinions I see, I'm not going to give it any emotion. I'm just on to the next post or on to the next channel. No big deal. And good for you. But if you can't, then maybe treat it like an addiction, like Anthony said, and just get rid of it.
Yeah. And what I mean, the reason I like to really ingest a lot of it, again, it's one of those ones I know that I'm able to. And sometimes when it gets to the point where I can't, I have to step back. And I know the audience knows when sometimes I'm gone for 3 or 4 days, whatever it is. But it's almost like I take it in. It's part of my passion to take it in, to change it around and bring it back out in a way that it at least makes it educational for our viewing audience and for the people, so that I'm softening the blow by creating what's important and what's not, and not spinning the information, but giving people a mixture of hope and information all at the same time. And I think that's super, super important. Let's see. There was there was a question I'm going to ask about a book in a second, but Shirley asks, I've never read this book personally, but have you read Mindset by Carol Dweck?
I have not, but it sounds intriguing.
And that's Shirley. So she usually has some good ones. So I might have to look that one up. And then the book that I've been reading lately.
I like Shirley.
Shirley's legit. She's a spitfire too. She cracks me up. Have you read, what is it called? Think Again. Have you read the book Think Again? It just came out a couple months ago.
No.
All right. I'm going to send it to you. There's not a lot of books besides it's by Adam Grant. There's not a lot of books that really I fall in love with when I start reading them. Bob Burg, The Go-Giver, was one. The Alchemist, always. And I'm not always a huge book person, but Think Again by Adam Grant is essentially retraining your mind. And I know that I'll be using it when I work with people, just the whole thought process. It's to not be a preacher. It's to not be, what's the other one? Preacher or something else. It's to be a scientist, which means you're always trying to challenge your own thought process. And I think that's also a huge way to get through what we're going through. So that's going to be probably one of my last questions to you, is thinking about things from a perspective of in your brain being willing to learn new things. Is that important in today's world, whether it's with politics or whether it's with your own life and work? How important is it to be willing to pivot, and how do you change your mindset to be willing to be somebody that changes their own mindset?
So that's my whole thing, right? Is to revamp your mindset. And I think anybody can be reprogrammed, which is the beauty of the CLS technology. And look, the thing is this: we've been conditioned, depending upon how old you are, to be a certain way for a very long time. So we have to reprogram and recondition a new mindset. The great news is it's very doable. Obviously, positive reinforcement, support, having a mentor or coach, something of that sort is very helpful. But it's very important to be coachable, not necessarily by a specific coach, but like just by the world. So if you're a certain way and you want to make some big changes, you want to be that change, you have to be willing to do the work to revamp your mindset, to acknowledge that you'd like to change your perspective to certain things. And the best part is once you do this, literally you live an entire different world, because, and I'll come back to the word we used earlier, your map. When you revamp that and you rewire your map, everything changes. I mean, any type of limitations that you once saw, literally you're going to look at from a whole new perspective. You're only going to see possibilities. And there's nothing that you can't do. And I always like to say this: why not you? There's literally nothing stopping you from doing anything, any pivot, any type of change that you want to make, except you. That's the only thing. It comes down to a decision. How bad do you want it? You have to make a decision that you're ready to manufacture some change. And if you're truly ready, the possibilities are absolutely limitless. But if you only think you're ready, you're going to go back on that same pattern, that hamster wheel, and you're never going to break the wheel. Next thing you know, you're going to be 60, 70, and you're going to be living with regret. Break the wheel, make a decision, be willing to revamp your mindset and create that change and be that change.
Typically, I would say that's the time to wrap up the show, but we have one more tough question that I think
Hit me.
is really good. So first off, Shirley wanted to thank us because she needed this. So and that's the whole purpose of the show. I don't know if I touch one person sometimes or if change makers can touch 100 people, but when you can create one change, especially somebody that's in education, the ripple effect continues. You know that you are
What happened? Did we lose you? Did his computer die?
change.
His computer died.
Here we go. There you go.
There we are.
Did it switch? Hey. How did that happen? I'm still at 5%, and I've got 2 screens up. Let's see which one I'm removing.
You're back and better than ever.
All right, there we go.
Minor setback.
Minor setback. All right, we're good now, right?
There he is.
Minor setback. All right, we're good now, right?
There he is. Yes.
All right, we're good now, right?
There he is. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Fun fact, it's actually the Wi-Fi that went out. Interesting.
No big deal.
All right, we're back. That had nothing to do with the computer. Funny enough, we just started having a storm and the Wi-Fi went out. So that's awesome. All right, so sorry about that. Maybe that was God's way of being like, you should not have asked the question. All right, so here we go. This is the tough one, and it's right here. What's going on in the world? And as we said, we have laser focus. We don't necessarily pay attention to exactly what's going on. It's not overly important, but and I have an answer for this based on kind of what you and I do specifically in terms of help one-on-one training. What do we see what's going on in the world in terms of how to create real change on a larger level?
What do we see is going on in the world that we can make a real change?
Yeah.
I mean, look, like there's a lot of opinions about what's going on in the world. There's a lot of things going on. I know that most people don't agree, but here's what I know. I know what I can control, and I continue to put out great content to inspire people, to give people tools and techniques to speak with Anthony so he could provide positivity, inspiration, and ideas on how to get on fire, how to pivot, and so forth. That's what I can control. I can't worry about everything that's going on in the world because the reality is like I said earlier, I'm one piece of this thing and we're only going to be here for so long. So I'm going to continue on my rocket ship, doing what I can to spread change, to spread light, to help people. And God willing, this thing really takes off the way it is, and we'll be able to change billions of lives. But I cannot give all my attention to every single thing that's going on in the world if I can't change it.
Right.
So that's my suggestion to you. I want you to do what's comfortable for you. But if there's something that you can do about a certain thing, then do what you can control and take some sort of positive action in your lane.
That's exactly, that's perfect. Because my thought, everybody has an opinion. And with the company name BetheChange, everybody says, you're not being the change the way that I would be the change. We're all different. We all have different passions. Craig works with groups of people that are creating change internally, which has a ripple effect. And that's the point of this show. If you're creating positive change in one person, just one, it can spread in so many different ways. They might end up getting involved in a community. They might go, I've had a passion project forever and I've wanted to create change. So Craig's mission is to work with individuals so that they can be a higher level of themselves. When I do some shows on Be the Change, I'm trying to educate large amounts of people on how to have better conversation. But ultimately, by making real change is doing what you feel is right, your lane, your passion, and find what you can do to make the world a better place, starting right here, and not looking at the person in the lane next to them and say, no, they're not doing it right. If they're trying to create change in their own way, let them do it in their own way. That's the best way. Looking at the crazy world we live in is if people have a good heart and a positive mindset, then let them do them and you do you. So
right.
That's it. And I think a lot of people thought that you were all on your own. They're like, uh-oh, all you, Craig. I'm glad we had that ready to remedy, though.
All you now, Craig.
Let's see.
I'll take that responsibility. If I'm being honest, I'm not scared of it. I'm going to keep spreading light, keep helping people tap into their own potential, and don't blink, just watch.
100%. Craig, final words, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Why not you? I know a lot of the people that watch this show and listen to you, Anthony, probably have some great ideas. I'm sure a lot of us are unfulfilled, or do I dare say miserable, doing things that we're not feeling like we want to do, or not living the life we want to live. Here's the thing. It's a decision. Make that conscious decision that you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, or that you can achieve what you do desire. There's always a strategy to be taken, but it's going to start with your mindset. Look at the world from a different perspective. See things that are possible for you, not that's not possible for you. Take a shot at life. We're only going to be here for a little while. Why not you?
You're the man. Thank you so much, everybody out there. Be the change you wish to see in the world, and why not you? Craig, stick around for just a second. Take it easy, everybody. Have a great night.